What I'm offering you is absolutely impossible. Be glad. What if you could really accomplish it here? Do you hear me? That would meant that it would have had to been real in order for you to overcome it. How would you ever be sure it was really overcome? You couldn't. You can't stand for a forgiving God. Did you know that? You're very suspicious of a God that forgives you totally. Nothing is more sinful than a totally forgiving God. Why? If he recognizes the crime and forgives it, he's not all good, not in any sense. Okay, so what? God does not judge. Can you get that? Is that okay for you? Okay. Who wants God to judge? Okay. Well, okay. Everything does not judge, right? How could it? Right. Okay. So stop asking God to judge this. Now, does established religion, Christianity, do that? Of course not. Of course not. They construct a God who conceptually judges them in association with their things that they do, don't they? And you say, well, I don't want to associate with a religion. Christianity does that. They think they sent their only begotten Son to be killed, and I know that's not true. So what do? Form some other establishment that satisfies you? Secularly, the Kiwanis Club or the Philatelists or something. The Philatelists are stamp lickers. Philatelist, I don't know where that came from. You're a philatelist. Doesn't. That's the old political campaigns. I don't want to say anything about my opponent, but I understand he's a philatelist. Isn't that awful? See? And his daughter's a thespian. See, we hear what we want to hear, don't we? I think he matriculates too, I'm not sure. This sort of thing. You hear what you want to hear in this regard because you hear it in order to satisfy yourself. And you like the idea that your brother's fallible. And it's necessary to justify your fallibility. Jesus teaches this as guilt. He must be guilty along with you. And once you do that, you can never get out of it. That's why I stopped by here to tell you that it's not real, and that if you want to come home, it's okay. And if you don't want to, you must mean that it's okay with you not to. Because all I could possibly do is offer it to you. But your original attack on God is senseless. Is this really happening to your mind, that you're going to change your mind on to? Sure. Sure. What occurs all the time here, see if you guys can hear this. What occurs all the time, remember that you guys are going through your own perceptual atonements individually, aren't you? Can see that's what's happening here now, within your own association. Sometimes this can appear conflictual, okay, because you hold on to it in a limited frame and you assert energy rather than releasing the energy. That's what you're doing now. I just saw you do it. Don't do that. This is a release, not an identity. The level at which some of you have got this is not high enough to be stable. The stable level is up here, and that veil is open for you. If you don't move up to that veil now, you're going to start feeling the frustrations of the world real strong, because you've learned some fundamental lessons and you're going to go out and whoppo, it's really going to hit you. You'll say, why am I doing this? And this is futile. Or you'll go out and try and teach it in limitation and be attacked because you're teaching. What you call teaching is not what I'm instructing you to do at all. I'm instructing you to be you. With this energy, it'll work perfectly. Why? You're teaching all the time. Everything only is an expression of what it is. It requires no reciprocation at all. And in fact, if there is reciprocation, it's false. Okay? Jesus says teaching on earth is literally exactly the opposite of what teaching is. You are going to be you regardless of what you do. So you actually teaching each other in a total karma association all the time within the Great Ray Association. It doesn't make any difference what you say. So sometimes you'll say, well, is it necessary that I talk at all? I don't know. I do, so you must need me. Otherwise you'll keep formulating it in an association. Did you hear what I'm telling you? Of course. What would there be not to hear this? In a very real sense, I'm only instructing myself. But remember, I'm only instructing the one single part of me that for a moment I can remember didn't know this. That's why I'm the Savior. Yes?
You haven't spoken about guidance, and I know like in San Francisco there's a lot about check with guidance, check with guidance. Can you talk about guidance for a while?
Sure. The way you ask it, all guidance is false.
Well,
you've limited the association and are asking for guidance in a specific identity. Okay, all you need ask for ever is total guidance, then the result won't concern you at all. You're asking for a result of a problem. Okay, come on you guys. You've denied the miracle by asking for guidance in the limited association. I know, but it's important. I understood what you're saying. This is inevitably where the Course falls. Why? Because you need an assertion for dividing up the problems. Okay, now the direction of the Course will be that you only have one problem regardless of how much guidance you ask. Okay, you can hear this. Mm-hmm. You inevitably ask for guidance only when you identify a specific problem. Holy Spirit told me don't put onions in the potato salad. Oh. So a lot of the counselors are saying we don't deal with the Course because we send them out with the Holy Spirit and they all get different answers. And then they come back and they look for a consensus of what the Holy Spirit is saying. That's just so crazy. You can only hear what you want to hear. Huh? The Holy, my favorite joke, the guy coming out of Reno here. And he's driving out and he's got $200 left. He blew all his money and the boy says, turn back. Oh, Spirit. And he turns back. Stop at Harold's Club. Oh, he parks his car, he gets out, he's all excited. He says, go to the roulette table. Put your money on 24. Number 36. Oh, shit. I hate that when that happens. That's awful. Oh. Who can you count on? You know, just... There's a tendency with awakening consciousnesses to gamble. It's a very amazing thing. They understand that all odds are finally the same. Many of them in this relinquishment will go through periods of gambling.
I did that.
Oh, I betcha. So did I.
There's a card room here in San Jose, and actually I was thinking of stopping before I go back to the city now. I don't think it would be necessary. The thought crossed this mind.
You already won.
Thank you. You're right, I did.
You have everything.
Yes.
But the tendency to take a chance statistically will come into a whole mind, because it realizes that when it wins, it had just as good a chance to win as anyone, regardless of what the odds were. And what it says was, it's proper for me to make the application of that power in my reassociation to bring that about. Some of you have become very clairvoyant.
All right, well, welcome to the Miracle Mind. Great, great that we can continue. And so this was part of the talk. You could hear the switch. That wasn't like a break in the talk. I don't know what happened. But so we're entering into the fourth part of the talk, I guess. And this is like the last section. So that sounds pretty amazing to me, because I really thought there were only 3 parts in this talk, like 3 times 1.5 hours, but there are actually 4. So that's great. For next week we can listen to that too. But now here is the Miracle Mind. This is happening today. It's right here, and we just lost $200 on betting on the wrong number. But I loved it. I loved the joke of it. So it's so lovely. See, for me to hear Master Teacher share this, what he's sharing is so beautiful, because it is like you actually hear it from the say from the place where you have accepted it, and that makes it just a total joy to listen to it. It's like there's no consideration to be made. There's no real confrontation in a certain sense. No, it's like this is, you hear this with ears that actually have accepted what he said and recognize the truth in all of it, without exception. Well, I'm just very grateful to recognize that, to experience that, and so grateful for the whole setup. In fact, like to come to share this certainty. It's like, oh my God, what you just heard, where that is coming from, is so part of you that if you recognize that, then it's like total beautiful gratitude, warmth, absolute brightness. It's like this is your illumined mind speaking to you. How lovely is that? And it doesn't exclude anything. It includes everything in. It tells you to be completely yourself. And that always is like, oh, that's so beautiful to hear that. There's nothing to do with a human idea of teaching A Course in Miracles, or even a spiritual student idea of teaching A Course in Miracles. No, this is only about you coming to the total acceptance of yourself. That's A Course in Miracles. Now, and that's where your certainty is, and that's where the release is too. It's like, you see, it's like it's all based on release of ideas, release of identity, release of this and that, and in order to be completely yourself. So any kind of investment you have made outside yourself, or thinking that you need, or that you have to, or must do, or this or that, like all of that was just part of the, it's like these were the bricks of your prison. And and so they have to be released, they have to be gone. You're not in a prison. Just like Paul walked out of the prison by so-called angels. And so in the Course in Miracles, angels are used a couple of times, not very many times, but one of the expressions is that they say, guarded your thoughts. And guarding it in terms of, say, realizing truth and nothing else. So it's like a vigilance against temptation to think differently about yourself. Like you don't need any additional thoughts about yourself. So that's a great. So there's no self-made image left. I'm saying it like this because there's a real, to me it's like an art perfect artwork where everything is taken off so well that, well, there it is, like the perfect creature that you saw in this huge, gigantic stone. Everything is taken away until there was like this perfect image that was already in it. It was just like hidden behind all kinds of structure, all kinds of ideas of compactness, or all kinds of ideas of what it isn't. So that all falls away, and what is there was always there, of course. So I love that. It's so beautiful. Yeah, so now next, so the theme that was given to us here was, you don't like a total forgiving God, because it's like, no, you want him to be judgmental, so you actually be confirmed in your own guilt ideas about yourself, at least in human terms of speaking. So to have a completely forgiving God suddenly in front of you that does not judge can be quite confrontational. Now this is one idea that comes to us. The ideas that will come, like in the next episodes, for instance, are there are, I think, two more like major ideas that are being shared. One of them being, this is not a process. There's no such thing as a spiritual process. So, and of course I will come back to that, say next week, but it is great to see that in every time that we come together, there's a huge, say, theme that's actually coming to the surface for your recognition of a tendency that you recognize. So if you tell me, it's like, you don't like it when, say, everyone is completely set free of all the guilt. When there's no such thing as guilt, you know this as a concept, but when it happens to, in your, say, three-dimensional relationships, you could say, you don't really like it. You like condemnation. It's like it's a real attribute of human thinking. So you can say, well, now I know better. Yeah, but in the practice of it, in the practicality of it, in the subconscious decisions that you make, it might still be present. And not to talk you into something, but it's good to recognize it so that it can be set free, so that you can release it. Like, wow, look what I'm thinking. I can't believe it. I'm actually judgmental about this and that one. Or the situation as I momentarily perceive it, I don't like it. I don't like the idea how this is looking. I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. So you have an idea of an outcome, which is really what a judgment is. Now you get very, it's like that goes so subtle, and you're so much used to establishing yourself in that sense, that to come deeper into the process of, well, take a good look at it. It's like, no, there is not a judgmental God. What would allness judge about itself? It only can have a recognition with itself. Guilty along with you. Am I too good to be true? Sure. What I'm offering you is absolutely impossible, and be glad. What if you could really accomplish it here? Do you hear me? That would have meant that it would have to have been real in order for you to overcome it. See, and that's the place where it doesn't work. Like, no, it is not real. It doesn't need to be overcome. You have to recognize it where you are experiencing it. So it's in a place that does not exist. Now what you're going to do? It's in a place that doesn't exist. So how could something be overcome? And is there a necessity to overcome it? No. And what I'm offering you is absolutely impossible. And why do you need to be happy about that? Because if it is impossible here, in a limited association or in a limited idea of yourself, it must be certain in heaven, you could say. since that is the total opposite of what is happening here. It looks impossible in the dream. Great. Then it must be resolved in heaven. So the place where you perceive this is in fact a place of limitation. So that can never be real. So that cannot be a solution. No, I said that. So that's clear. That would have meant that if you would have had to have been real in order for you to overcome it. So it is not. No. How would you ever be sure it was really overcome? You could not, because the result of it will be as unreal as the occasion itself. See, the whole dualistic relationship has no reality. Whether it's good or bad, good health, bad health, lack, abundance, as we describe it in terms of possession. It's like, no, that has nothing to do with it either. So any kind of dualistic idea has no origin. It was just to confirm something that doesn't exist. You can't stand a forgiving God. Did you know that? You're very suspicious of a God that forgives you totally. Nothing is more sinful than a totally forgiving God. Why? If he recognizes the crime and forgives it, he is not good at all. Not in any sense. Yeah, that's great. So God does not judge. Can you get that? Is that okay for you? Who wants God to judge? Everything does not judge, right? How could it? So stop asking God to judge it. Just establish religion, Christianity, or Islam. Do that? Of course not. Obviously not. They construct a God who conceptually judges them in association with the things that they do, don't they? And you say, well, I don't want to associate with a religion. Christianity does that. They say God sent his only begotten Son to be killed. And I know that's not true. So what do? Do you form some other establishment that justifies you, secularly, worldly, the Kiwanis Club or the philatelists or something? We hear what we want to hear, don't we? I think he matriculates too. And he has probably a Thespian daughter. You hear what you want to hear in this regard because you hear it in order to satisfy yourself. And you like the idea that your brother is fallible, and it's necessary to justify your fallibility. Jesus teaches this as guilt. He must be guilty along with you. And once you do that, you can never get out of it. It's like, no, I want you to come down with me into this. It's like you use everything that you hear, or you literally hear the things you want to hear in order to justify yourself. Now we can spend some rebirth sessions on that too. That's really interesting, because what is the thing that happens when something appears to be happening to you? You look for someone to tell it to confirm it, or to justify it with you, or to come up with a situation, for instance, that is even worse. So your case is not that bad. And this is what you do as a human being in order to justify yourself. So, and then you're in the middle of it. You can't get out of it. So you have a pact together. Now the undoing of this pact is really what the rebirth sessions are for, and in fact where this is for. It's like recognizing that there's no need to justify anything, that there's no need to judge anything and or to justify anything. See, the funny part, for instance, now in a trial case with, say, a former president of the USA, I will mention no names, but that they actually cannot find say, a jury, because everyone has an opinion about this specific person. So that to me, I laugh about that. So what do you think about the judges? You think you can find a judge that doesn't have an opinion about this former president of the United States? So it's like you're in the middle of it. There's no way you can come to any kind of verdict or judgment, not even in a court case. No, he's a beautiful example of that. It's like absolutely wonderful. There's no one that doesn't have an opinion about him, that will have a biased view on it. So the judges, so the jury, so you go on and on and on. So I love that idea. You see how impossible that is. It can never work. This is literally a case that can never work, and the beautiful example of that. And you might have an idea, since this is very practical, you might have an idea about, well, he deserves it because he did this and this and this, and there's proof of that. It's like, well, see how much you invest then in that, and you become part of it, and you cannot get out. So you're stuck in it. Now what? What is that going to do for anyone? Nothing. So you have to release and let go of all of it again, to be free of the judgment, and to see like none of this is so. Like any situation where there's a judgment to make, or where somebody needs to point out to someone else about an occasion that occurred in the past even, does not make any sense. Now you can follow it as some kind of news interest for yourself, but you actually become part of it. So you cannot stop your mind from choosing for or against. That is just how the human mind works. And so you can only stay out of the situation by releasing any kind of idea or outcome about it. Same with any occurrence in this world. Now this is actually huge, but in your, say, awakening mind, it becomes obvious that it works like that, and it's not huge at all. It's like, no, that's common, in fact, common knowledge. Yeah, of course there's no judgment to be made. Who would judge who? If you recognize that you're all of it, if you recognize that this is your dream, so you set up this case, you set up all the impossibility of it, and now you want to hold on to one outcome that you actually want to come from it. Are you going to succeed in that? Yeah, who knows? You know, but your whole investment is in that. So you lose yourself literally in it, instead of being yourself and recognizing, I have nothing to do with this. It's like either outcome would be the same to me, because there's no justice here. How could there possibly be in a place of limitation? So that's how fundamental this is, and how practical this can be applied. But see, in our awakening, it's like you want to stay out of this. You don't want an investment in any of that. And we call it then you enter into a monastic life or something. And it's really a monastic life, but it's also like you're the monastery itself too. So it is like you can be exposed to some human activity, you could say. You can't avoid it to a certain extent. You can't avoid it, but keep the exposure short, because take sufficient time to recover from it. When you enter into a human situation, you in fact enter into a cloud of, of unknowing, a cloud of limited ideas, and it can drain you very quickly. You all have that experience for sure. So then to return back into your little quiet space is the way to to become, say, energized again and to remember. It's like, oh yeah, there's nothing going on. I really was caught in it for just a moment, or I really thought I went somewhere, or I really thought I had to deal with it. It's like, no, you can decide any moment to step out of that. That is your monastic life. You step out of it continuously. In other words, like it's a continuing practice of leaving your nets. I love that too. You leave your nets all the time. So you pick up your nets, but you leave them again. You let them go. Like, no, I'm not following that. I'm not following that. Whether that's a net of so-called worldly news, or a net of social activity, or who knows what. Like in whatever form it presents itself, it's all the same. See, it's not that I'm telling you what to do. It is just like the practice to be yourself, in fact. It's like the vigilance against anything that would come to tempt you to not be yourself and make a sacrifice or a compromise. There's no necessity for that. And when you decide it, you're free of it and you feel it immediately. That's so amazing to me. That's why I stopped by here to tell you that it's not real. And that if you want to come home, it is okay. And if you don't want to come home, that must mean that you're okay with not doing that. Because all I could possibly do is offer it to you. But your original attack on God is senseless. That's not going to change. Is this really happening to your mind, that you're going to change your mind? Sure. So that's a great confirmation. Like I said, so the change of mind, that's another idea to look at. The change of mind is not having better ideas about what is going on. Or the change of mind is literally allowing your mind to be open, like into a miracle-mindedness, not knowing why anything is occurring, or why, say, not having any preconcept about what is going on or what is going to happen, why you're doing the things that you're doing, who you're meeting, and how to respond to any of that. It's like that is really like the possibility. That's the change of mind. That is opening your mind up to miracle-mindedness. So that goes, deeper and deeper into your own layers of consciousness, you could say. It goes deeper and deeper because there's continually the possibility to stay in connection. It doesn't need to be disturbed by anything. And so that's our practice, really. Is that a process? No. See, the recognition of yourself, the recognition that you are all of it, is in fact the only thing that is happening. That is not a process, it's a recognition. So up to the moment that you don't recognize that, nothing has occurred. And why is it so important to share it like that? Otherwise you start to make the process real. It's like you start to make an idea real that you're in a process of spiritual awakening, wadi. Like, no, up to the moment that you awaken, you haven't awakened. And that is not a process. Then you're as human as you can possibly be. Don't think that if you know a couple of, say, spiritual concepts, that you're awake. You know, like this. It's like, no, that only happens in the moment that you recognize fully that you're awake. And recognizing fully that you're awake means, in fact, that you recognize that you are just you. And that there's no opposite to it. It's like, I'm just myself. I'm everything. But that is, it's like an extension of myself. I'm all of that. I'm all of the occurrences. I'm everything that is occurring. There's only one consciousness, in other words, and it's mine. Like I'm fully connected with that. So that means that I cannot distinguish myself from anyone, that I cannot separate, that I cannot compare or compete or analyze anything. What is there to analyze if I recognize myself to be completely connected to every aspect of it? Now, to bring that into practice and to a, say, a moment-by-moment basis of experience for yourself is what the awakening is. When you do it, you are experiencing your awakening. If you don't do that, you're experiencing your limitation. Now this seems like this is an activity of you. So the great part is then, when you realize that, say, you're everything, that you're, say, connected with every aspect of creation, you in fact are home in yourself. You're home in heaven, in yourself. When you don't experience that, you decided that you don't want that. You decided that, well, there's something else I want to experience. And this is your free will. I choose for limitation. I choose for not being in heaven. I don't want to make this step, so to speak, to fully recognize what is true about me. I just choose to have a limited identity. So that doesn't seem to be a conscious decision, but in fact it is. So like you make that decision on a continuing basis, up to the moment that you don't, and recognize I don't need to do that. And there we are. I love it. I just love it. So we dive deeper into that next week with the 2 more sessions of Miracle Mind, where we listen to parts of the talk that is following this one with major themes, but lovely. All right, so the thing I want to share now is one of the prayers that came to me this morning, and so beautiful that I cannot stop sharing that with you either. So I want to just spend some time in quiet and in rest. And this one is so beautiful. So lesson 265. Creation's gentleness is all I see. So you can look it up. I don't know if you're looking for it. Yeah. Creation's gentleness is all I see. I've indeed misunderstood the world, because I laid my sins on it, and saw them looking back at me. How fierce they seemed. And how deceived was I to think that what I feared was in the world, instead of in my mind alone. Today I see the world in the celestial gentleness with which creation shines. There is no fear in it. Let no appearance of my sins obscure the light of heaven, shining on the world. What is reflected here is in God's mind. The images I see reflect my thoughts, yet is my mind at one with God's. And so I can perceive creation's gentleness. In quiet, I would look upon the world, which but reflects your thoughts as well as mine. Let me remember that they are the same, and I will see creation's gentleness. In quiet would I look upon the world, which but reflects your thoughts, and mine as well. Let me remember that they are the same, and I will see creation's gentleness. Creation's gentleness is all I see. So I love that part. I've indeed misunderstood the world because I laid my sins on it and saw them looking back at me. How fierce they seemed. How deceived was I to think that what I feared was in the world instead of in my mind alone. Today I see the world in the celestial gentleness with which creation shines. There's no fear in it. Let no appearance of my quote-unquote sins obscure the light of heaven shining on the world. What is reflected here is in God's mind. The images I see reflect my thoughts. Yet is my mind at one with God's. And so I can perceive creation's gentleness. In quiet would I look upon the world, which but reflects your thoughts as well as mine. Let me remember that they are the same, and I will see creation's gentleness. So thank you so much for your presence today. And we will be still with this for a moment, just to relax into the idea of the celestial gentleness. I love to feel that. I love to see that and be still with it. So here we go. Thank you so much.